Let's hear some people come off the chat and say hello. Let's hear your voices. Let's see faces if we can see faces.
Good afternoon. Oh, is it evening? Well, depending on the part of the world you're in, it could be morning, afternoon, or evening.
One moment. I'm going to, here we go.
Hi, everybody. Can we get at least one person or two people say hello back so we can hear that? We can hear some voices.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Hi. Wonderful.
Hi.
Good.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
People are alive.
Yes. Yes.
That's good.
We're not speaking to nobody. We're actually talking to real people.
Indeedy. Good. Glad to have everyone back again. It's been almost 2 months. Yeah, we'll let you know in the notices later anyway, but it's good to see you guys. We're going to get straight into proceedings today. As we have seen the title, it is Confessions of a Young Husband and Wife.
You know, one of those, what's it, biographies that that celebrities write to tell it all and make that best-selling book.
Talking of the book, you know, Big Sis is on tonight. Pastor Yemi, Abodering. Hey sis, we're talking about her proofreading / joining us in a book to write. And maybe this should be the book, because my wife and I spoke about we wanted to write a book about confessions of a young husband.
Yeah.
And a young wife. Well, she actually wanted to
I wanted to write it early on in marriage when I had no responsibilities.
Yeah.
Then...
And then I was like, you know what? If you're going to write it, I should actually write it as well.
Yeah, we should write it together.
Next year is 10 years wedding anniversary. And, you know, let's do some, let's write the book then. Should we get the community to hold us accountable to it?
I really don't want to be held accountable because then I'm going to have to do it.
You're going to have to do it. But that's why I said we should ask
I will
pre-order.
Oh my goodness.
I'm ready.
Can we just mute the...
Who said they're going to pre-order? Excellent.
More
My
content.
mentor said yay.
Yes.
Big Sis said yay. Anybody else?
Me too. I will pre-order.
Excellent. Then it's done.
Please don't hold me. Don't hold me. I don't want to be. Oh, I just also, hey Callista. Good to see you. You know what? I'm going to say hi to all the people on here. Good to see you all. Welcome.
You know you have to say hi.
I know. Welcome Ochena. Welcome Sandy. I'm not sure who Keith is, but good to see you. Michael, good to see you. Laura.
Frederick from Nottingham.
Oh, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, Lamray, Debbie, thank you all.
Happy birthday for yesterday, Debbie.
Oh, happy belated birthday. Good to see you. Okay, I'll stop doing that now.
No, you have to. I said, once you start, you have.
More people have joined.
Stop. That's it. You've started this now.
Welcome, everybody. If I've missed your name, charge it to my head and not my heart. So, welcome. Good to see you all. Fantastic. So we thought we'd get started today with a little icebreaker. So that just to, you know, I don't know if you can tell, but we're really tired.
I'm not tired anymore.
You were tired.
I was tired before, but I'm okay now.
We're okay now, but just to get us a little bit more awake, just a little fun icebreaker. So we're just gonna do who is most likely to. And I know that there's gonna come a point where we're not gonna agree and we're gonna disagree, but that's the whole point of the game. We're gonna see how well we actually know each other with these questions. So Alita, if you're ready, take it away with the first who is most likely to question.
Yeah, sure. So
yeah, join us on camera, Alita. Come on, don't leave us alone.
To always be happy.
Most likely to always be happy.
Be happy.
Yeah.
You.
I agree.
But I'm not unhappy. I'm just.
You're not unhappy. I'm just happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're slightly.
I'm easy. I'm much more easier to please on the outside, not inside my home.
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. I think he's most likely to be more happy.
Right. Cool. So, did we want to keep score of these, by the way? I don't know.
Oh, no, we don't need to keep score now.
Yeah, let's keep
Okay.
score. I want to win.
All right, so second question.
You want to win. It's not a competition. What does the winner get?
Oh, gosh.
Right, next question. So, who is most likely to forget something important?
Me. Me.
She.
Yes.
Right.
And sorry, babe, you're waiting for my answers before you pick. Can you do yours quickly?
Sorry. I'll do it quickly.
Thank
sorry.
you.
Sorry, ma'am.
Who's most likely to fall walking? Or while walking?
For while walking. It could be both of us,
Both,
you know.
yeah, I think we're.
Yeah, the both of us.
I think that's both of us. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? No, let's say me. Let's say me.
I don't know. I don't know. Both of us, I would say.
There's no one that's more clumsy than the other then.
Actually, no, him.
Yeah. Me. Let's say.
Yeah.
Definitely more clumsy. Sorry.
Right. So, who was most likely to be the more popular person in school?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm still the more popular person now, aren't I?
Please take your crown. I'm not disputing it. If you need to you need to point at the person.
Sorry.
Who's most likely to be more popular?
More popular me.
Yes, him.
Sorry. But you're the most popular person in the world to me. Anyway.
Thank you.
You are.
Great.
Okay, next one, Alita.
The next question. So, who's most likely to take care of the other person while sick?
Me.
Yes, do you agree?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Me.
I'll give it to you. Don't act like I don't take care of you anyway.
Well, who's most likely? Most likely.
Yeah, that's why I said I'll give it.
Yes, okay, you point, please.
Because you're a mothering person.
Okay.
You're a mother.
Yes, can I have all my
Can
I have all my flowers, please?
Have it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Have it.
Right. So, the next question is, who is most likely to get annoyed over small things?
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, me.
Who is most likely to be impatient?
Me.
Who's most likely to complain about things?
People may not know this, but this is the truth.
Yeah, I'm admitting it.
Okay, thank you.
Who's most likely to be sweet?
To be sweet
Yep, sweet.
as a person.
Sweet. What does sweet mean?
Like a sweet person.
Like kind and thoughtful.
I mean, this is the hot seat. Like, what kind of sweet do you guys mean? Like, because my wife is sweet.
Not that kind of. Oh my goodness.
They need to quantify the sweet. What do you mean by sweet? Like,
As in a person that's sweet.
well, then it's gotta be you then.
Can we keep it PG, please? Who's most likely to be sweet?
I think we're both sweet, but let's give it to you.
I think me.
Let's give it to you.
Who's most likely to be the healthiest?
Healthiest. You now.
Me now.
You know. Although maybe we should get into this healthy thing.
No, please, we're not
You
going
don't want us to get into it.
No.
We know why, don't we? But then I'm making a comeback though, aren't I?
Please, come back. We're ready.
Who's most likely to be nice?
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, I'm nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you nice?
I am nice. Just
you can be nice.
Let's not.
You're sweet. At least you're sweet. You got the sweeter one.
Right. I think in general, you're a nicer. Yeah, you're a nicer person.
Who's most likely to be best at school?
Best at school?
Mm.
Oh, me.
In what things? What do you mean by best at school?
Can we just not show it?
There's many things in
Behavior,
school.
Performance.
As in general, in
Behavior,
the whole.
grades, yeah.
That's
in
me.
general.
That's me. That's definitely
I
me.
work in schools.
What did you get for your GCSE?
What did you get for
Your GCSEs?
What did you get for like popularity contests and like
That's not
amongst teachers? How many of your teachers are still in
That's
touch
not-
with you today?
that's
I
not
have-
best.
I have at least 2 teachers still in touch with me today. from
That's not
secondary
best
school.
at school. It means overall
If you're saying
grades,
grades, if you're saying academic grades, then her. But that's just secondary
grades,
school.
behavior.
Yeah, that's a whole package. It's me. Come on, this is me.
Definitely me.
Do you agree to disagree?
That we're arguing about this, but I'm definitely.
Sorry, nah, I'm going for me.
Okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
Okay, split decision then.
Split this.
So, next question. So, who is most likely to shoplift?
Shoplift.
Yeah.
Nah, none of us. Or were you doing shoplifting before I met you? I don't know. Like, there might be stuff
I've
you
never
haven't told
actually
me.
shoplifted, but I feel like you're like, let's say we're in school. I feel like you're more likely to follow the crowd than I was.
Nah, because I had parents come back to, and I was the firstborn. I had to live up to standards.
Who's most likely to? Maybe me. I don't know. But I would say none of us.
Maybe it will be me because I actually did go on a robbing spree with people once.
Thank you. So
Once, but that was once, and that wasn't in school.
Okay, you've gone on a robbing spree once. I've never been on a robbing spree. So
I'm a guy.
Okay, who's most likely to shoplift? Can you point to yourself?
I'll point to myself.
Thank you.
Man, let's go for me then.
Thank you.
Let's go for me. No worries. It's all good.
So, who is most likely to be a good cook?
I think this is easy.
But do I have some of my uni people on there? Because my wife keeps on doubting the fact that I used to be a top chef back in the day.
But the thing is, I don't know if. Okay, can you just put a thumbs up?
One
I
second.
can't vouch for that, Pablo. I can't vouch for that.
Mark, pause yourself. Mark, your wife is here. The reason you can't vouch for that is
I heard about it.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Thank you, my sister.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, who's like, do you know what? Yeah, my husband's always spoken about how the fact that he used to cook. I'm like, what
That
changed?
was me. Well, come on. You heard Brenda just there.
No.
You're like uni with me. Come on now.
What happened when you met me?
Let me jump in. 2 things. The reason why Mark doesn't know is because Brenda, his wife today, his girlfriend at uni, come on, how's he going to be coming to my house and eating my food?
So
when
he's
not
going to eat
around?
Brenda's food. Okay,
Who do you think then?
I'm just saying that I've never seen proof of this. If my husband's always going on about how he was amazing cook at uni, he used to bake. I've never tasted these things.
Talia's on here, Callista's on here. I don't think Dorinda's tasted my beans before. Where's Gerald, is Esther with you by any chance? They will testify of my beans game. Come on. And beans is not easy to cook. You just don't, if you can't cook, you don't go to beans.
I'm so sorry. But you know when that one person
by the way, for those who aren't Nigerian, I'm talking about Nigerian beans here. Come on. Can some people testify, please?
That one dish that someone cooked for one dish, that doesn't make you a good cook. Okay, can we go back to the question, please?
Okay.
Can we go back to the question? What was the question?
I'll pause.
Sorry, Alita, what was the question?
So, who is most likely to be a good cook?
Can we point, please? Can you point at me?
Wait a second. Talia just said she hasn't tasted my beans. Okay, it was Chrissy then.
Okay.
We'll allow it then.
Babe, can you point at me, please?
Okay, no, you're the best cook.
Can you point? I want to see you point.
I'm pointing. Can't
Thank
see
you.
his finger.
Okay. Let's get it on camera. Come on. Someone take a picture.
And by the way, because she's a better cook than me, that's why I don't cook anymore. Because as you know, I'm about the details of life. Why should I be eating my food when your food is better? Come on.
Thank you.
What's the point in that? But you do know I helped level up your cooking though, because when you came, anyway, we'll leave that for another day.
Thank you. Can we we've gotten the answer. We can move on now. Thank you very much.
Gosh.
We can part that there then.
Thank you.
So, next question. So, who is most likely to eat something off the ground?
Me. That ain't me. That's not me.
Babe, who's out of the both of us though? It's none of us would, but who is most likely to?
I could pick something up and blow it. I could blow it.
Okay, so you're giving us the answer, so it's you.
Yeah, I should have just said me. You won't even smell food that's like 2 days old.
Thank you. So it's definitely not me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Who is most likely to fall asleep during a party?
During a party. It depends what party it is.
Who's most no? Okay, my husband's being too technical with this. Who's most likely to fall asleep at a party?
I don't, me then.
Thank you. Can I just tell you guys? I don't know if you want me to say this.
But look, Grace is here though. Like I was always the
God.
life of the party. She will tell you that.
You're not anymore.
I'm not anymore.
So can I tell them
Mark's here as well, Brenda's, and they'll tell you that.
Okay, can I tell you who's most likely? Can I give them a story?
It's me.
Or can I give them a story? So on this question of who's most likely to fall asleep at a party, for those of you who have been to like Nigerian traditional weddings,
very boring.
You know how, but you know how loud.
The ones in Nigeria are good, but the ones in the UK are very, very boring.
Okay, you know how loud it is there, and you know there's a lot of activities going on. My husband.
One more. Yoruba Nigerian traditional weddings, because we haven't been to much Igbo traditional weddings.
Okay, can I just
quantify?
Can I just land my husband fell asleep at his own traditional wedding, and I had to be waking him up that like, babe, they're not gonna let you take your wife if you fall if they catch you sleeping at your own traditional wedding. So who is most likely to fall asleep?
Am I allowed to walk out the room now?
I think that's conclusive then.
Yes, here goes the person. Please take your crown. Yeah. Okay, so we know that one.
So who is most likely
Sorry,
to
I did ask for permission. He didn't mind me sharing.
Nah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. So, you know, yeah.
So
I won't go into details, but yeah. Unless someone asks on the question chat, when it's question time, then I'll go into details as to why and how that happened, but it's cool.
Right, next question. So who is most likely to end up on a reality show?
Reality show?
That's you.
No, but you knew that acting and all
a few years ago, maybe I could have said me, but not me now, though.
I don't think any of us, but who's most likely to?
I think you would go with your girls.
On a reality? Okay, maybe me. I don't know.
I wouldn't even go with my guys. No.
Okay, me then. Someone said me. I guess so.
No, not me.
Who is most likely to be best at math?
Best at maths? Me.
I'm a maths teacher.
You're a maths teacher, but I calculate money quicker.
You're fast in most things. You're just a fast person.
So who's best at math?
Well, you're fast. You're just fast.
Baby, who is most likely to be best at maths?
Me. I did A-level maths. You didn't do A-level maths.
But who's better at maths?
Okay, what's the Pythagoras theorem?
I don't remember.
You see, and you're trying to tell me you're better at maths.
Okay, fine. I'll give him that one.
Who's most likely to adopt a wild animal?
Adopt a wild animal? Definitely not me.
Me.
Yeah.
Who is most likely to be smarter?
Smarter.
Who is most likely to be impatient? Who is most likely to buy things that they don't need? Who's most likely to crash their car? Who's most likely to watch a scary movie?
None of us.
But more likely you.
By the way, my wife's a good driver. She's a new driver, but she's a good driver. I tell her she's on track to be better than me.
A new driver? What? 2.5 years, really?
Not 2.5 years. You just came up to 2.
Okay. Is that still considered a new driver?
He had COVID, so he didn't get to drive.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Me, I'm likely to crash the car. I know that for sure.
And that is all of the questions.
Right. Thank you very, very much.
That was good.
Thank you.
Good idea to play that game. We've never played that before.
Maybe with ourselves, but not
ourselves. Yeah, not in front of people.
Not in public.
Yeah, we played some of those questions with ourselves.
Okay, fab. Welcome to everybody who has just joined us. It's good to see you all here tonight. We're hoping tonight will be interactive, will be edifying, and everybody who leaves here today will leave here with one or two things that they've learned from, they've gleaned from. And before we get started on what we're speaking about today, I just want us to know that there is a Slido link. I don't know if someone from the team, could you just put it in the chat so that everybody can have access to that? So if you've got any questions you want to ask that you don't want to put in the chat, or even if you, just any questions whatsoever, please put it in the Slido link. If it's too long for you to get there, you can also put it in the chat and we will try our best to answer your questions tonight. So tonight, what are we speaking about, babe?
Confessions of a young husband and a young wife.
And just before we get started, one of my friends who will remain nameless, when she heard about this topic about a young couple, she said, we're not a young couple. Are we? Can someone tell me, are we not a young couple?
There's two answers to that. Yes, we are, and no, we're not. Yes, we are, because as I said, we're celebrating 10 years next year. To some people, we're a young couple. There's a school of thought that, people married for as long as we are shouldn't even be bothering doing what we're doing. You need to wait till you're longer in the game and stuff like that. There's a big school of thought out there like that, isn't there?
Okay, yeah, I guess
so. To them, we'd be a very, very young couple. To people who realize, unfortunately, in today's day and age, both in Christianity and outside Christianity, getting to 3 years is like an achievement.
I know, right?
So, on one hand, we're looking back to the early years, to 1, 2, maybe maximum 3 years.
I would say the first 5 years.
Okay, the first 5 years then. So we're looking back to that time of our experience because we're not who we are then. And I was saying to someone today that it's going to be quite difficult at times to look back because much of what we didn't do well, we've left behind and we've moved on to better things. And just in case, and we will try and be as real as possible and answer your questions as we always do. Might bring up some, that's a tough memory. We're leaving ourselves open with that, knowing that it's the purpose for healing, as my wife said, to bring people closer to Christ and realize that it won't always be a bed of roses in marriage. So on that end, we're looking back to the younger days of our marriage. But of course, man, we've got this, babe. We're a young couple. We always will be. Come on, man.
Yes, we are. And just to say for those who don't normally join, or if it's your first time on here, there's really no questions that we won't answer. We try, as by God's grace, to lay it all bare. This isn't a place where we pretend to have all the answers or to have always done it right, but we believe that God has given us a responsibility to share just our testimony as well, some of the things that the Lord has brought us from, because to think that next year will be 10 years is literally mind-blowing, that the Lord has preserved us for that long. And those of you who don't know, or maybe it's your first time someone invited you, we're Christians and we'll be speaking from a Christian perspective. So there will be a lot of references to God, but ultimately we wouldn't be celebrating 10 years of marriage in about 9 months if it was not for God. There were so many seasons, so many times that we wanted to check out. It seemed easier to, the road ahead seemed tougher than the love we shared per se. So
when you say check out, as in do you mean more the checkout mentally or the physical checkout? Because I think for us, we always knew that divorce was never an option.
Yeah, I think divorce was never an option. And we said that from the beginning. But I think there were moments where, I can speak for myself, where I knew I couldn't get divorced because of what I believed, but it seemed like the best option.
Yeah.
And that's just being honest. I knew that my faith, based on, and don't get me, I'm not saying every Christian can't get divorced, because I do believe there are some grounds for divorce. However, there was nothing in our marriage, i.e. abuse, i.e. unrepentant infidelity. There was nothing in our marriage that warranted that gave me the escape clause, should I say. So I knew that we were kind of in it and there was no way out. but divorce seemed like, or separation, should I say, seemed like a really, seemed like the best option at certain points in our marriage.
I'm glad you said that. I think for me, because I know for you that was the case, but the word separation was something that came to mind for me, because I ever thought to myself, you know what, if you check out mentally for this season, you'll remember why you're with this woman. Or if she decides to check out, or I let her go somewhere and have some breathing space, she'll realize what she's missing and come back. So yeah, I was that confident in us.
Yeah, I think there was always this
and in the fact that you couldn't just do without me, girl.
No, I could certainly do with, at the time I felt, or should I say, at the time I felt like I could certainly do without him. But I think back to what the point I made originally, our faith in God has kept us grounded in ways our love couldn't.
That's right. That's a good word.
Yeah, our faith in God has kept us grounded together in a way that love just couldn't. And I know that many people have this different ideas about what love is. You know, how love is amazing and the best thing. And don't get me wrong, there are seasons that we've gone through that has made love felt enough. The feeling of love, we were so overwhelmed by it. And I was listening to someone before, this is not even what we're talking about today, but I think it's a good way to introduce the topic. I remember I was listening to someone recently she was celebrating a few years of marriage. And she said something that when her and her husband first got married, there were so many things that she didn't consider because she was so intoxicated by love. Like the feeling of love, the euphoria of love really made her feel like her and this person could make it. And as the marriage went on, and as the realities of, you know, marriage, the real life setting, the mundane responsibilities setting, as that went on, she realized that the intoxication of love has wore off, and she literally had to start liking this person and finding something else to ground, you know, this relationship that they had. So it really is to say that tonight we're just going to really be looking back on some of the earlier years of our marriage, and some of the things or some of our confessions about, you know, that time or that season of life. And I think the first confession for me, and you can jump off, you can go ahead with yours, is that I really had this idea that my husband would be some kind of savior. And I'll explain what I mean by savior. I felt like my husband would like meet my emotional needs. So he would be there when I really needed to speak to someone. And not that he isn't, but I felt like he would constantly understand my emotions, constantly be able to make me feel better. I felt like my husband would meet all of my like financial needs. So he would provide, as they say, you know, a man should. I felt like he would just get me. And unfortunately, as the marriage went on, my bubble burst. The bubble that I had of what this person who was going to meet all of my needs, was going to meet my physical needs, my emotional needs, my emotional needs, my financial needs, that literally went up in flames like psh. And when the reality of what being married to this man who could not meet all of those needs because he was not designed to, he's not God. And I placed all of these responsibilities on him to be able to do all of these things for me. And when he couldn't meet these needs, I was left disappointed. And I wish that, you know, somebody said this to me before I got married, earlier on in marriage, and explained to me that your spouse won't be able to, sorry guys, I'm just pressing something on here. Your spouse won't be able to meet all of your needs because they are not God. They weren't designed to carry everything. And I think the first 3 years of our marriage, I don't know if you, maybe like 3-4 years, I would say, there was a lot of resentment towards him, because I felt like, you promised me so much.
Ain't you getting it on now, girl?
Well, life's better now, but it's not even because the things, I think the more you grow as a person, the more your hope and your faith and your trust becomes grounded in Christ as opposed to a person. The lenses you view life from changes completely. But I would say that was one of the first, I guess that's one of my first confessions, that my spouse is not able to meet all of my needs, was not able to meet all of my needs. And I wish I was told earlier. I wish I was told before I got, and probably I was told and it didn't resonate, but I wish I related to that reality a lot earlier, that this man cannot meet all of your needs, will not meet all of your needs, and place that responsibility on someone who is able to carry that kind of burden. And in my opinion, that person is Jesus. I'll hand over to my husband now.
Mic drop. I don't know how I followed that, my darling.
Speak about your thoughts about me meeting all of your needs.
I think for me, before I go to meeting my needs, was I wish I had a conversation with my wife, especially a year to go to our marriage, getting close to our marriage, that I hadn't met my financial goals, especially. I hadn't met some goals that I wanted to before getting married. But because I had faith in God that they would be realized, I hoped sooner rather than later, but the truth of the matter is that they were realized later rather than sooner. And I also, as much as you're not entirely sure what, as a pastor's wife, she would have to go through, and as a pastor myself, what I'd have to go through, because I'd never been a pastor and married before. Yes, there's many advice given, there was much counsel shared. So it wasn't like there wasn't a lot shared for us to prepare us, but life is what prepares you. And this is why it's only people who believe in God, especially for those of us in the Christian faith, believe in God and have a strong faith in God, that we as ministers gladly say, hey, you can get married, because your faith in God is strong and secure. And I think that's what saved our marriage. We individually both were strong in the Lord. So when the storms came and we realized, as she said, oh, Olumide can't do this for me, at least I have my Lord. I think if she didn't have faith in God, if I didn't have faith in God, it could have been very, very easy for us to take some certain decisions. Could have still been married today, but take some decisions that may have left such great ripple effects on our marriage that we may still be having to deal with after 10 years, rather than pushing on further. That doesn't mean that everything is perfecto now, but at least now, when everything's come, we are fighting more together rather than before, when it was just a case of trying to work it out. So I wish I had those conversations and said to you a year before, close to time, look, darling, the financial goals I had for us aren't there. But yet, because as a person of faith, and I'd almost say because things had happened whilst a single man, very, very spontaneously and supernaturally for me, whereby money would come and things would come, I just assumed that that would now happen in marriage, and it didn't happen like that. So, and that's why I didn't have those conversations, and amongst other things. I wish I had those conversations, because not realizing how much a woman values security. Now that I know that, I would have definitely changed that.
Yeah. And just to jump off what my husband said, from my perspective, like I said, we're looking back on our earlier years when we first gotten married, and just to paint, because I guess there's going to be a little bit of storytelling, as we don't want to speak about our confessions as a young married couple and not give you guys some insight into what life was like. And I'm sure, babe, are you okay with me just bearing it all on we're just gonna bear it all. I remember I guess one of the things that I would say now is that, especially to those who are yet to get married and those who are married now, and even I feel like we still need these conversations now. Have honest, hard conversations. Sometimes in the bid not to disrupt what seems happy now, we're actually creating a worse off future for ourselves by not having hard conversations now. And I feel like earlier on in our relationship, we ignored a lot of hard conversations, not because we didn't want to have them. I guess part of it was naivety. Part of it was how inexperienced we were, and we didn't have hard conversations that could sort of direct the course of where we were going as a union. So we got married. Before we got married, my husband was a full-time minister. So I knew.
Still is.
And yes, I must say, and still is. But at that time, that was all he did. And I mean, to some extent, that's still all he did. But you understand what I'm saying? That all he did strictly was full-time ministry. And for some reason, we never really sat down to have the conversation of what impact that would have on our lives going forward. We didn't have the conversation about the impact it would have on our finances, one. We didn't have the conversation on the impact it would have on what our home would look like, two. We didn't have the conversation about what that would mean for his time, for his availability, for his priorities, for so many things. So we didn't have that conversation. So it meant that when life was happening and the fact that, so I remember we gotten married. My husband was a full-time minister at the time. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with what being a full-time minister was, but it meant that there was really at the congregation we were there, at the congregation he was a part of at the time, there was really no salary. For those, just to explain, there really wasn't. I myself was really just getting into a career, into the job market. So we had just got married. I didn't have a job. I was still job hunting. My husband was a full-time minister where money would come sometimes miraculously, and money would not come sometimes miraculously. We were just basically living by faith, essentially. What that meant was that our first mattress, so we moved into a house with very little money.
Yeah, 2012 Olympic season.
Very.
We're waiting for our bed to come. Yeah, we slept on a pump bed.
We had a pump bed for how long do we have a pump bed for, basically?
Grace, don't be laughing too loud. I saw Grace's emojis.
We basically had a pump bed for I don't know, longer than you should have one for, because that pump bed developed it was longer than that, babe, because it developed a hole.
Remember, you're the one that doesn't remember stuff. I remember stuff.
Anyways,
lean on me.
Okay. We had a pump bed longer than you should have one, and it developed a hole. And I vividly remember. I vividly remember.
Thank you, Sandy. Sandy said they had it for like a month.
We had it.
By the way, you gave an absolutely gorgeous bed away.
I did,
about 6 months before you got married.
Listen, let me tell you about this. We'll go back to that. Let me tell you about the life that we live. Before getting married, I was used to luxury. I liked, even as a uni student, I had really nice things. I had this king side bed in my accommodation. So imagine going from that. I had this room that I wallpapered. I did all of this luxurious stuff too. So imagine going from that to a bunk bed. And the funny thing is that this bunk bed would it had a hole in it. So in the middle of the night, it would deflate.
I forgot about that.
In the middle of the night, this pump bed would deflate. And then I would realize that, wait, I'm sleeping on the floor. I would wake up, I'm like, this pump bed, something's happened to this bed. Because right now I'm on the floor. So I would have to get up in the middle of the night, put the socket back in, and then pump the bed. And then pump the bed again. And I would have to do that.
Hold up. Who's pumping the bed now?
And people who know me then, I was rocking Brazilian hair as a 30th student. So I would have to
driven around in a BMW.
Yes, and we don't. Let's
5 Series.
Okay. But I'm just painting the picture of the fact that we really did not have hard conversations. Yeah. And we thought these hard conversations were gonna destabilize our relationship at the time. But it destabilized a lot more than that, because it meant that we were both not prepared for the life we signed up for. We weren't prepared for the hard seasons. We weren't prepared for, I won't even give you guys the story of where our first set of furniture came from.
No, go do that. Why
Yeah, give us the first story. There was this
charity shop.
There was this charity shop that used to give, like thinking about it now brings
people
back.
People love those sofas. I know you didn't, because you have like great like furniture taste, but people love those sofas, you know.
I'm not even going to go into the story.
People love sleeping on. We got people on this line right now who enjoy sleeping in that sofa.
I don't think they enjoyed it. I think when people come to your house and it's all that you have, they're not going to tell you that these sofas are ugly. So I remember the first set of sofas we had. They're from this charity shop that used to give free furniture to people who really needed it. Yeah. And I remember like the day that we had to go and queue up for this place, and I was just like, God, see my life.
No, pause. Before you carry on, it's so interesting how everyone's experience in a relationship is different. Like some of those hardships, because of how you felt about it, you remember more. But because of kind of like how I knew we would end up, certain things I'm like, I can manage this situation now. And I'm not saying
I'm sorry, I could not. Then I was looking at him like, is this the life you brought me into? Is this the life you brought me into to come and suffer? Because this is not the life you promised me. This is not the life, you know, I was made for. As you know, as they say in popular culture, I was made for the soft life, and my man here brought me into the hard life. And and I remember those sofas. Sorry guys, I'm going on a tangent a little bit here, but it's just to show you the fact that if you don't have certain conversations and you aren't prepared for what your marriage could potentially look like, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I wish that we had sat down and, you know, spoken about these things like, babe, it's gonna be rough for a few years. It's gonna be hard for a few years. And by the grace of God, ultimately we made it through. But now in retrospect, now looking back, I would not advise anybody I know to get married without putting all your cards on the table. Like, babe, this is what it is. Are you willing to make this sacrifice, or do you feel like, you know, we need to take a step back here? Because those conversations, those hard, difficult conversations would have saved us, I don't know, a few years of resentment on my part, a few years on his part where he felt like, you know, he wasn't doing enough per se, or he wasn't able to give me the life that I deserve. And just to go back to that sofa, I remember us getting that sofa, queuing up in this, it was like I wouldn't call it a shelter, but it was just a place to get furniture if you couldn't afford it. And I remember queuing up and just thinking, God, this is not the life I signed up for. This man lied to me. Why did I not think about this before we got married and all of that stuff? And then the sofa was like a green. I don't know if you guys know those carpets.
Green's my favorite color, by the way.
Well, it's my favorite color now, but then I hated the sight of green. I don't know if you guys know those carpets that have like flowery patterns. Those carpets from like the 80s, those carpets that have like this flower pattern. That was the pattern on this chair. And then because it was free, it stunk of smoke. And I remember washing those sofas like, I need to clean these sofas because it stinks. And those who know me well know that I have a phobia for like smelly things, things that are just like a little bit. So it was my worst nightmare. And I would clean the sofa all of the time, but the smoke smell would just not leave it. And it takes me back to my first point, because when
thank you, Esther. I knew
Esther said,
Esther. I didn't want to say your name, Esther, but she said that sofa was comfy.
I'm not gonna lie, the sofa was comfy, but it was ugly.
Cool.
It was comfy, but it was ugly. We could have had a nicer sofa that was just as comfy.
And she wasn't the only one. And when lots of people are saying this sofa's comfy, I can sleep well in it, you know, we have.
And then he used to look at me like, see,
I'm like
when people are saying that, I'm just like,
sofa.
please.
You don't like this sofa? People love this sofa. Chris, do you remember the sofa?
No, Chris said we should give it. No, the sofa was just not. It was not it for me. Anyways, it takes me back to my first point. In that season of life, I was looking to my husband like, babe, like, why are you not doing more? Why are you not trying to make the situation better? Why are you not? I felt like he just wasn't doing enough to bring us out of the situation. And in hindsight now, it makes me realize that I was looking to him as the savior. I was looking to him as the one to deliver us. What does that mean? Anyways,
I'll look it up.
I was putting all of this responsibility and pressure on him instead of looking to God, the one who truly provides, instead of looking to God, the one who truly makes a way, instead of looking to God, the one who truly who truly is the one who gives us the things the desires that we have. And I placed all of this resentment, self-pity, this I wouldn't go as far as hatred, but this idea that you didn't give me the life I promised, I placed that on him. And in hindsight, that's a responsibility meant for only God. I'll pass the mic over to my husband now.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there that I don't want to repeat, but just agree with wholeheartedly. One thing I will say I don't want to say as a caveat, but as a warning, I had plenty of opportunities as a single person to get my financial affairs in orders that wouldn't have put us in that place. I want to make that very clear. It was my fault that certain things weren't in place, because it wasn't like I wasn't working before I met my wife, so I could have saved better. I could have spent money much better. It wasn't like I wasn't the one who made the decision, because I was part of a ministry, big shout out to Kingdom Culture, that we had just started planting. So in early stages, you are going to need a lot more work in the early stages than you need to today. So that needed sacrifice, hence the not being able to do other things as I'm able to do now. And even the senior pastor in that ministry is able to do now, like, whereas we couldn't in the early days. So money was wasted by me, time, in order to position myself with businesses that I'm involved in today. That time was wasted, whereby I could have used that very, very well to make sure we weren't in that position. So I wasted those resources because I was leaning on the fact, like you said, because money was coming in miraculously. I'll be honest, I was leaning on that, okay, well, if I'm serving God, he's going to keep on sending stuff miraculously. There's a difference when God is sending stuff to you as a single person and when you're with somebody else. That might be okay for me, but I want to encourage men or women in this case. That's not okay, especially for a man, for your spouse. There is no patriarch in the Bible that was known to do that. That's why Paul can say to Timothy, the man who does not provide for his home is worse than an infidel. There is a clear biblical mandate that financial provision must be established before you take on a bride. Hence why Christ, he has already paid a dowry for us before he welcomes us into his family.
That's a word.
And this is something that I'm not saying that my senior pastor or leaders or mentors didn't say to me. This is something that I didn't take the responsibility to take hold of. So that's just what I want to say on the back of what you said, that I made those mistakes. And I relied on God's miraculous providence, thinking that would go through just because of the type of work that I was doing. And that is not a basis for anything. So that's a huge, huge, huge fail, and something that I regret to this day. But I don't regret it as much anymore because of how things have turned out now, and I've repented from that type of a lifestyle. So
definitely. And you know, someone's just put on the chat now that these are things that people don't even like. We're not sharing these things to air out our dirty laundry and, you know, speak about everything because we don't because we don't have anything better to do. I think because yours might not be in the area of finances, even if you're married now, but I want us to go through this and think to ourselves, what conversations am I supposed to be having with my spouse, with my future spouse, am I not having? What conversations am I pushing to the back burner? What things am I thinking that, oh, love would be okay? Because like I said, like for me, these conversations, these about what our life could potentially look like, didn't even cross my mind because I was so intoxicated by love. And it's so good to have these hard conversations. Find people around you who will force you to have those conversations. Find people around you who will steer you in the right direction, who will say that, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you counted the cost of, you know, of marrying someone who potentially this is the trajectory that they're planning on going to? Because if you don't have these conversations, life will happen. And unfortunately, life is not a respecter of persons. It really isn't. Life will happen to every single one of us. And we don't want to get to the point where, you know, things that could have been avoided are now the things that are destroying us, or now the things that are making the marriage unbearable for some people, leading to a case of divorce. Did you want to say something?
No, finish it. But whilst you're about to finish, Olita, because of our time, I want to encourage you to start getting the questions ready, either from the Slido or they've come in the chat, so we can answer people's questions, because I think that people are going to have quite a few questions.
Quite a few questions. Yeah, please send in your questions. The questions are in the Slido link. Yeah,
or they can post them.
Or you can post
I don't
them
have
in the
anything
chat.
to add. I just wanted to mention that because I think there's going to be quite a few questions, and I think let's try and answer people's questions.
Okay, I think we'll go for one more point and then we'll stop going the questions.
No, I don't think we should. I think we should answer questions. It's 8:30.
Okay, let's see what questions we have so far, and then we'll take it.
Well, you
from
can
there.
keep speaking whilst we get the questions ready, because she might not be ready now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the second point that I wanted to raise was the fact that the scales are not always going to be balanced in the relationship. There's this notion of in order for a marriage or relationship to work, there needs to be 50-50. And I guess that will be one of like my confessions. I expected my husband to continuously match my energy, as they say. So if I'm giving 100% or 50%, he needs to bring the other 50%. And that would be the way our marriage goes. And I think it was later on that I realized that there are seasons in your marriage where the scales are not going to be balanced, where one person's giving 70, the other person's giving 30. Or one person's giving 100, should I say, the other person's maybe giving 60, 70. There are times in your in the seasons in your marriage where you're both going to be giving as hard as each other. There are times when your spouse is going to be giving more. And it's so easy to be discouraged in the seasons where you feel like you're the one carrying most of the weight. Did you want to say something concerning that?
Just very, very quickly. Whereas I agree with you on that, I do want to say again, because we as Christians look at marriage through God's lens. Remember, it's a picture, as Paul says, of Christ and the bride. All of us are espoused to Jesus Christ. There will be a marriage supper of the Lamb one day where we will commemorate that marriage with him. In no time ever in their history, whether before or now or in the future to come, is Christ ever not working harder in the relationship than ask the bride. So men, even though she's right with what she said, one of the things I didn't grasp, I knew before marriage, but I didn't grasp it here and here, head and heart, that I would always have to outdo my wife, not because of performance, but because that's my role. That's my role. There is nothing I can do more for Jesus. And so should I be telling myself, there's nothing that she should be able to do more for me. Now, because I'm human and I'm not the savior, she said, and I'm not God, there will be times like maybe she cooks more, maybe she does more of the laundry, maybe she does more of the school run. So things that are the, I don't want to say mundane, but are the things that needed for the home, the everyday things to run the home. But in terms of the spiritual order and where heaven's concerned, as the man, I've got to be the priest in that home. She can't be the priest. It doesn't mean that I'm praying 10 hours, she has to pray 5 hours. No, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the availability for God to speak to me and be present always before God to dispense whatever this family needs. That rests on me. And that means I do need to work a lot more harder to be a man of God and always be there for her benefit, because that's what Christ does for us. So I want to make that clear to men. It's very, very important. And yes, you might not have all the answers before marriage, but you must have that connection in your head and your heart and be willing for God to bring you to that place. Whereas I knew it, but marriage taught me that, oh, now you know what it's like. And that was a shock to my system.
Yeah, definitely. And I couldn't agree more with my husband. And I think that's why Christ shows us such a beautiful picture where he continually outserves us. Always. Continually gives the greatest sacrifice. And I mean, as the bride, the Bible says that the goodness of God brings us to repentance. So it's the fact that we see him do these things that brings us back to the place of awe of him. And you know, I know my husband's already spoken to the husbands. I know that a lot of men can be frustrated with some of the things that they're looking for from their wives and are not receiving. And from a woman's perspective, I can say that when I've seen my husband serve me and truly love me, in those moments, I felt like there's nothing he could ask me that I wouldn't give him. And in moments where our marriage has been difficult, down from financial difficulty, emotional difficulty, physical difficulty in terms of, health and all of that, all of those difficulties are erased by the sacrifice and the servitude he's shown to me. So I would go through those difficulties 1,000 times over with the same man, because I know that this man has served me well. Not because they were easy or I enjoyed them, but I would sit on that green sofa again. And that sofa that smelled like smoke, I would sit on it again because this man has shown me that he loves me and he serves me. And all of those times of hardship has been erased by his heart of service towards me. So just to put that out there anyway. I think the questions are ready.
Before they go on, and in response to what you just said there, my darling, you are like Christ wants to present us spotless before the Father. You are a spotless bride. There is nothing I would not do for you. It's my joy to serve you. My absolute joy. I will do it again and again and again. You deserve it.
Thank you, babe. I'm actually crying, but you just can't. You
Let's
can't
get
see
these
it.
questions on. And I mean that. You know I mean that, don't you?
Okay.
It's like she once said that I'm obsessed with her. And I told her, yes, I am
He's obsessed with me.
I am very obsessed with this woman. I am thinking of all the things she can be and should do. And she must fulfill destiny, because God's going to ask me one day, how did you help her in fulfilling destiny? So I take my job with you seriously, very seriously.
Thank you.
All right, let's get these questions going.
Everyone in the tears on the chat, they're asking who's cutting onions. I know, right? Okay, yeah, we've got the questions ready.
Yes, we do. So the first question that's come through, so we've got, describe what you thought of each other in the first year of marriage. Did anything change?
Wanna go first?
I'll go first. Like I said to you, it was great for me because she was. Like I said before, I knew things would turn around, and my wife will tell you I'm a very patient person. I'm not saying I don't have room to improve on where patience is concerned. Of course I do, but I just had faith that things would turn around. So my mindset was that, yeah, we'll get this. We'll get this. This will improve. So I was happy to wait for things to turn around. And she, like I said to you, she, what else I need? She's not argumentative. She's loving. She's kind. Her food bangs. You know.
Don't go there.
If this was a married couples only place, I'd say some other things, But I had no complaints in the first year. So even when my wife fell ill in January 2013, and we might get to talk a little bit about that before, because the truth of the matter is that in certain aspects, because of her health, we haven't had normal marriage. And that's why you say for better or worse. Nobody asked for someone to be ill, but that happened, and we've had to deal with that. And I'm sure you won't mind me saying, babe, there's been times during COVID period and during this year, we've had to deal with that again. And it's been hard for her at times. But that's what you sign up for anything. God forbid, if I couldn't walk again and was in a wheelchair, she'd have to deal with that. God forbid, if that was her case, I'd have to deal with that. And we pray that's not our portion, amen. But these are the things that
life throws at
you, and we have to handle it. So yeah, that's how it was for me first year. You?
First year, I think the first year for us, I feel like the first 6 months I was still in the
honeymoon.
we were still like in the honeymoon stage, and I was still. I was saying to someone recently that it's often the very things about someone that you love that made you fall in love with them can be the very thing that you start to despise. And like for my husband, what I loved about him was his faith, was his like this sold out mentality to God. He was so brave, and just, yeah, those things like really drew me to him. How much he loved God, how much he would like go hard for God. And
God's my bestie.
Yes, he's your bestie. He's my bestie too. But yeah, I really loved those things about him, and that was part of what made me fall in love with him. But I think as the years progressed, or as the later part of our first year went, those are the things I started to despise about him, because I'm like, yeah, you love God and all of that, but like, does it take, are you the only one who loves God? Because some of the decisions you're making over here are making me feel like you're one of the 12 disciples. Because I love God too, but I'm making smart decisions. And
you ain't acting married right now.
I know, right? You're like
acting single.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, you love God, and I like that about you, but bruv, can you make like better? Can that same God reorientate your mind a little bit? Can that same God give you new lenses? Because the way you're moving, I'm just joking. But I would say that I would say that, yeah, those like the things I loved about him were the very thing that, as the first year progressed and I realized the cost that was attached to someone who was completely sold out to God, were the things that my carnal self started to despise. Yeah, I would say that's the description of our first year of marriage. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
So, Lita, I'll say this just in case, because I know you're not the one asking all the questions. If there is anyone on here and that was your question, you don't feel it's answer your question, please
Just say in the chat.
just say it in the, I'd say come off mute and say it if you can, because there's quite a lot of questions coming in the chat as well, or put it in the chat so that we can clarify that.
Great. And so another question that's come through is, what was the biggest difference you noticed between being an unmarried couple versus actually becoming husband and wife?
The difference that we noticed when we were like when we were dating, and I wouldn't say it was that much of a difference for us, because I would say that even before we were married, and I wouldn't like I said, we didn't do everything right, so please don't take this as this is like, we used to spend our money together. So we had like, we mixed finances together. He used to come to eat at my house. At the time, I lived with other people, by the way. He used to like have his daily meals. I told you that he was a minister. So he was a John.
We were neighbors. We were neighbors.
We didn't live far from each other.
So we lived like, and it wasn't planned. It just happened that that place was available.
Yeah.
I lived literally 3 minutes from you. So quantify this.
Okay, he lived 3 minutes.
But because you love me, you like bringing me food.
No, I just used to cook for him because I knew otherwise he wouldn't eat.
But then, you know, I fast a lot, so you know.
No, you do fast a lot. You do fast a lot. But then, so anyway, the point is to say that for us, I felt like we were kind of acting married without the benefits of being married, which I won't say that is wise. In hindsight, I wouldn't. I think there are some places where you draw the line.
Yeah.
However, I can't say much changed for us, apart from the fact that we could live in the same house and sleep in the same bed. I don't think there was much of a difference.
I think a big difference was in the first year anyway, it would just be like how we did things. So like we said before, I'm more concerned about little things, you're more concerned about, you know, big things. I mean, they weren't so much of a getting in the way, but it was just realizing that, oh, this is what you actually like, that's what you're like. So I'll give you one example. Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, so when you go to bed and you're sleeping, you're in the full cuddle and you fall asleep like that, and that's how you sleep for the rest of the night. But the reality is that as humans, you move away, you toss and turn.
Yeah, like he liked to sleep like this. I'm just like, I'm home.
No,
Can I breathe a bit? Please?
I married you so that you could be next to me, you know? And like, she's like, no, I need to breathe and I need to sleep like this away from you. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I think little things like that, when you actually like live with someone, and you realize that someone like literally spends an hour
I'm like, come over here. She's like, give me space. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think little things like every day finding out different things about each other. But I think as a whole, there wasn't that much difference when we were just dating and when we got married.
Next question.
So do you always agree on how to discipline your children? And if not, how do you manage this?
Has it changed, or is it still kind of the same? I think it's still kind of the same.
Yeah. Do we always agree on how we discipline our children? No.
I think what we do better now is that if we can see this is something we're going to disagree on, we'll have a talk about it. And I think now, I'd say I defer more to her, because I understand that there's a season of life whereby the children need more nurturing, then they need more foundation. They're going to need both all throughout their life. So when I say nurturing, that's more the mother's position. When I say more foundational rudiment stuff, it's more the father's position. Doesn't mean that we can't. Generally speaking, doesn't mean that we can't do both, because we're both foundation stones for our children. But now I defer to her more. Whereas before, I felt that because of being a lead in the home, I felt I almost had to impose that, and that was a lot of pushback. But then when you realize that, look, that's not working, it became quite evident that, look, what does the child lose if they don't do things my way this time around? And I think she gets that too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think initially, as our children were growing up, we had different ways of parenting, or disciplining, not parenting, disciplining. And there were times when it used, I wouldn't say major friction, but there were times where we just wouldn't agree. And yeah, and we would make that known. But I think now we've kind of come to like a happy medium where we balance each other out. And I think also when you truly understand that this parent loves this child, they're not going to do anything to intentionally harm this child. Once I like fully realized that actually just because he disciplines in a different way does not change the fact that he loves them, and just because I discipline a different way doesn't change the fact that we love them. So I just let him be with how he disciplines, and I think he trusts me enough to give me the grace to discipline our children in the way that I see fit. And we call each other to order. Like there's times when my husband's like, yeah, babe, like we're not in front of the kids, but later on he'll be like, babe, that's too harsh. Or babe, I feel like, you know, like we had a situation in the car tonight where my daughter, I felt like she wasn't answering a question I asked, and she was going roundabout. And my husband was speaking. Our children don't understand Yoruba, and sometimes when we're trying to communicate something to each other, we speak Yoruba to each other so that our children can't hear. And he was slightly saying to me, very in a very low tone, so that the children couldn't hear, that, babe, I think that was a bit too harsh. Maybe do that a different way. So we keep each other accountable with how we discipline them as well.
You could see her facial expression. I couldn't.
He couldn't, yeah.
And when she now told me, but I saw her face, I was like, oh, sorry. And that's one of the things that we're learning. So this is a confession and a development point for us and everyone here as well. Sometimes you have to read the room. She saw the facial expression.
He was driving, so he couldn't.
I'm driving, I couldn't, and I'm just going by the tone. So sometimes when a child wants something, they can use a certain tone. But, you know, the face may tell more of the story. And because she also had a conversation with my daughter about that earlier on after our service in church, she had a bit more what's the word? More knowledge or information as to what that was, whereas I was just coming off the back of it. And those are the things that you learn with experience. Whereas when you're younger, this is why I say confessions of a young husband and wife, as younger parents, sometimes you might just want to, you know, cuddle them too much and not have the right balance and experience that we have today.
Yeah, I'll just say parents, trust each other's intentions, trust that you both love your children. And if you feel like one person's, you know, perhaps straying off a little bit, gently keep your spouse accountable to how they discipline the children.
We've got a raised hand, but I'm sure we've also got questions as well.
We do, and a very deep question coming up. So, have either of you ever thought about leaving the other?
You thought about leaving?
Not leaving in the permanent sense, because like we said, we had established one of the things we'd agreed on is that this doesn't end the divorce. And thankfully we were at that place as Christians that God's wish is for this to work out. However, we'll be honest and say that as young couples, no, but as time went on,
speaking for yourself.
I'm speaking for myself now, but sorry, I'm speaking for myself now, not for us. No, but for me, I would say there was a time I almost felt that I wanted to send you away to go and have you time so you could get yourself back.
Oh, right, okay.
So, because you know you were acting kind of cray-cray.
I was actually this man said I was acting cray-cray.
Some of our accountability brothers and sisters are on tonight. I think one of them is on a lot. It wasn't her, but I remember I wanted to send you to a certain place because obviously if we send you somewhere there's accountability, then you're not just alone doing whatever it is that you want or alone feeling the pain.
What do you mean whatever it is? Like I'll go off and go and
no, not go and do something.
Go and meet a boyfriend somewhere.
No, not because of that. I know you won't do that. By the grace of God. The reason I'm saying that is that I didn't want you to be alone. I
Right,
wanted
okay.
to send you to a safe place. And
You're making it sound like I had like mental issues and I needed to
I was trying to
go
give you
away
time.
to a safe
No, I
place
was trying to
for
give
them.
I was trying to give you a break from me because you felt.
Okay, say that then. When you say stuff like I wanted to send you away to a safe place, it makes it sound like I wasn't in my right mental state.
We can argue that. What I'm trying to say, she felt she needed a break from me, and I felt I needed a break from her. But it was more her that she couldn't stand to be around. So I said, okay, so if you can't stand to be around, maybe you go here, and that gives you a break from me.
Back.
And I stay with the children because you don't have to worry about children. And this is why I failed to realize how mothers really love their children, and when stuff is going, them leaving their children is almost like, well, for you anyways. Nothing you want to do. I'm like, let me look after the children, because having to look after children means that I don't go off and do anything more silly or act worse than you think I'll act if they're around. And I have to, and they're kind of like, not necessarily a distraction, but if I'm looking after them, then I won't be disturbing.
I don't know. You just painted me as someone who was very unstable.
Sorry. I didn't know that would do that. I'm sorry. She wasn't unstable. She just needed a break from me, and I guess I needed a break from her. And we didn't do it in the end, but we considered that. But we came to the decision that no, let's talk this through and let's take the steps so that we can move forward. And we did.
Okay, good. From my point, because like I said, my husband was speaking from his perspective. From my perspective, did I ever consider leaving? Yes. That's just the simple answer. But like I said, for those who were here at the beginning, divorce was never an option for us, given that none of the get out clauses were at play here. So I knew that I couldn't divorce, because what was my reason? My husband was annoying me. I don't think that would be valid. But there were moments where in my head I had escaped. In my head I had checked out. I was in specific seasons I was done. In specific seasons I wasn't there mentally, emotionally, physically. I was just playing a role, because the toll of the marriage was, or the issues, not the marriage per se, but the issues that we're going through at certain seasons of our marriage, the toll of that was getting to me. So did I consider leaving? Yes. By the grace of God, none of us did follow through on those feelings at the time. But yeah, there were seasons in our marriage, I would say a lot earlier on, where leaving seemed like a better option than staying.
Great. And next question. So
it's 9 o'clock, by the way. What are we doing?
Oh, nearly 9 o'clock. I think we'll go to past.
How many questions do we have left?
Told us that we've got lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Maybe 10.
10. All right, let's read the room. Let's have a quick show of hands if people want us to get through the questions before we end, because I'm very particular about people's time.
Yeah, could just put a thumbs up if you'd like us to continue or
finish off the questions.
Okay. Got loads of hands that I can see anyway. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, looks like the general consensus. Okay, the general consensus that will stay. So we'll, by latest past, we should be done. Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Right.
We're listening.
So, how do you both put in healthy boundaries in place regarding in-laws?
Regarding in-laws, you wanna go? Regarding in-laws, I think that we've always presented as a united front. We've always presented as one, and we don't keep anything away from each other. So I think from the beginning, we always made it clear that this is one unit. So our families from the get-go couldn't interfere with our home. because there wasn't that room for them to do so from the get-go. And I know that that's not the case with every relationship, but I think that just showing that oneness and showing that the both of you aren't, I would say that if where possible, of course, there's wisdom and discernment. I've never gone to my parent or my parents or his parents to discuss an issue in our marriage or a problem that we're having. I personally stray away from that. I know that for some people, their parents are their spiritual mentor. So if you feel like your parents have the capacity to separate their child from, from a woman who they can counsel, regardless of them being, or your parents can be objective and both of you agree that they are people you go to, then, that's different. But as a general rule, I would advise against going to in-laws to settle marital issues or problems in your marriage, because oftentimes when you've forgiven your spouse, they haven't. When you have moved on, they haven't. And you've then allowed your spouse to be seen, or given a picture of your spouse, giving them a picture in their mind of what your spouse is like when you've forgiven them and moved on. So I feel like just be careful if you feel like you want to go to your spouse, your parents or your in-laws to help settle marital issues, because it may not end as you see. But I would say just respecting your spouse, respecting your in-laws, keeping that. There's a fine line, and I feel like when you cross that is when the problems start. That's it for my part. Presenting as a united front, having discussions before, making sure your spouse knows the intricacies of your home. There are certain things about your home that you would know that makes it, a little bit unique and makes it easier to navigate. Make sure that all of those things are on the table, so your spouse isn't going into the in-law relationship with a certain image, not having a full information of what the dynamics of this home is like. So just bear it all on the table, present as a united front, and I would say, where possible, remove your in-laws as the people you go to solve issues or vent to about something going on in your home.
I'd agree. The only caveats I'll put is that I do think that if more parents or we as Christians come to that place where we can look at things objectively, because obviously we're ministers, we would hope that our children, when they get married, could feel they could come to us. But then we would want to give them the option to look, before you do come to us, think about what you want to share.
And make sure your spouse is comfortable.
Make sure your spouse is comfortable. I think that's very, very wise for people to do. And one thing I'll say about our parents is that they've never been people to butt in. They're very, very prayerful. They've always prayed for us. So I think that's helped. And who knows, maybe because we live so far away from London, because they live in London, we're here, that's
helped.
Well, I don't want to say helped, because I don't think they want to do anything to get in the way. Of course. I know what you're saying, but I think maybe that's had an impact.
Yeah.
That's had an impact. So maybe if we lived in London, it may be different. Who knows? I'm not sure.
Because most of our family are in London, by the way, and we live in the Midlands.
Yeah, my brother and his wife live very much next to my mum. My mum looks after my niece quite a lot. So there's enough to mix with, and and they seem to be fine. And I think our parents are quite they've never once butted in, and I think that's also helped as well.
And I was just gonna say very quickly that boundaries don't set themselves; you have to set them. So you set the parameters for your own home, and other people will follow suit. Don't expect people to know your boundaries if you've not made them clear.
Next question. So, how did you both come to an agreement on your children's names?
Let's answer this one quickly. I think it was just through prayer. There was times when I prayed, I heard, I felt the Lord leading us to a certain name. There were other times that he prayed, he felt the Lord, not that we had that many, we only got 3 kids. There was one other time that he prayed, he felt God leading him a certain way. There was a time where we didn't agree and I deferred. That's just the...
Yeah, so Miracle, give a little bit more time. Yeah, because of time. Yeah. So Miracle was myself. I had a name for Eden, which she still has, but it's her middle name. And my wife felt, let's use Eden instead of Oluwashindara, which is a follow-on from Miracle, because it means God is still working miracles. And Santana means holy. So I felt like God was trying to tell a story for our family with the names of the children. So it's quite interesting that Miracle was born under miraculous circumstances, and that was a lot of what I was expecting for God to do, and he was doing early on in our marriage. And holy means consecration, and that's still something that we need in our marriage and our family today, to be consecrated before God. So that kind of paints, if you like, the mission, what God wants to do in our family type thing. Sorry, darling, I just felt to put that there.
Next question is, and this is from the chat. Can you please speak on the importance of intimacy in a marriage from a biblical and non-biblical perspective?
So like me, I don't know if I like that non-biblical side, but I guess I know what someone's saying, because the Bible doesn't, when they say intimacy, I'm guessing that person means sex, yes?
Sexual intimacy.
Sexual intimacy.
Or maybe they don't mean that. They could mean...
Can that person just clarify, if possible? Do you actually mean sexual intimacy?
Or just the idea of intimacy?
Intimacy in marriage from
a non-biblical perspective. Let's just answer it how we think they're asking it.
Okay, the person said sex. All
so,
right.
Okay, I would say this, like I said, we're going to be honest on here tonight. We're not, I didn't realize how important sex is. I don't want to say to men, because I know that there are women who are higher drive spouse, but I would speak for my husband, because I know you, I don't know all the men in the world, so I don't want to make general statements, but I did not realize how important sex was for him.
The Lord reigns. Let the people rejoice.
Okay. I just didn't realize, and from counseling people, and speaking to my friends, speaking to people that I know that this is the story a lot of people say. They did not realize that their husbands would want to have sex as much as they wanted to. It was. I don't want to talk too much, but I'm sure we all understand the point I'm trying to make anyway. And I think there was a... Can we answer the question?
I'm just saying.
I think that caused some issues in our marriage at some point.
Yes, it did.
Especially because we had 3 children back to back. And I think in hindsight, we didn't realize the effects that had on us, on me emotionally, which in turn affected our intimacy, And I think my husband couldn't put that together at the time. So until we started to speak about it. So
very important.
Exactly. What I realized, not even just from our marriage, from speaking to a lot of women, from books, for a lot of the times, for a lot of women, sex is very, very emotionally driven. I feel good about you, therefore I want to have sex with you. There are other times, for men, I feel like sex is in a different box. Like, sex is not always how
about this? I want to feel good about you. Let's have sex.
Okay. Say that again for the people at the back.
I want to feel good about you. Let's have sex.
And for me, it was the other way. I feel good about you. Let's have sex. So in the moment I didn't feel good about you, sex was not really what I was thinking about. So I feel like that caused a lot of issues at different stages in our marriage, and it had to be a conversation. But I've noticed as well that there are times when there's like tension in the home, and really all it is you just need to have a little roll. The answer to that is, and I'm not saying that sex fixes problems in your homes, because it doesn't. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But a lot of the times, a good roll in the sheets, as they say, can solve what feels like a quick session. Someone says a quick roll in the sheet will solve what feels like tension in the home. Sometimes tension is just a lack of intimacy. It's just a lack of that closeness. And there are times when what seems like a big problem can be solved by that level of intimacy. I don't know if you want to speak from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree. I do think that one of the might be a misconception, not of all men and women. So one that might be a misconception is that, oh, men just want sex because they just want sex. But it's also intimacy. And I'll speak for myself, and this might be other men's experience. When I'm intimate sexually with my wife, I then afterwards want to share my deepest desires. I then want to serve more. I then want to let her in. So it's not just about the pleasure of that act. It's about me opening. I mean, me actually having sex with my wife is about, I'm being very, very vulnerable. Now, men don't talk like this in popular culture. You know, this is like, oh yeah, man, I just need sex, you know, and like that as how the world will tell you. But it's actually a deep thing, and this is why God wants it for the marriage bed. And he doesn't want it before you're married, because you are opening yourselves up to joining together. And for me, having sex with my wife is making us more stronger and bonding tighter.
So babe.
I'll joke. No, but for me, it's about getting closer, and it unlocks everything. It takes us closer, takes us deeper.
Yeah, I hope we've answered that question anyway. If we haven't, then please, you can clarify.
So the next question is, how do you cope with persistent or stubborn flaws in your spouse and show each other grace?
How do you cope with persistent and stubborn flaws in your spouse?
I'll go first with this one. I just think as a young couple, I'd say definitely before life became life, because you go through different seasons, as you said. So there's seasons now where things aren't so busy, and it feels like, oh, every day is just heaven on earth. As a young couple, there was times like that. There weren't times like that, and I think it's just being able to realize that not every day is going to be the same. And I think with experience, we've gotten better with understanding things. Let's give tonight, for example. Like for those who were on earlier, my wife was saying, oh, yes, we're tired, but what did you say? So I don't take the...
I was just saying how like exhausted we are.
Yeah, but I'd come to a place because my wife did her utmost best to really cheer me up, you know. And it wasn't anything that bad that happened. I was just behind time for where I wanted to be before tonight. And anyone who knows me, I'm so particular about my time. I really, really need to have things done in a certain way to function at my optimum best. And I missed that window of time, unfortunately, tonight because of some logistical stuff. So that already put me, I wouldn't say in a bad mood, but it just put me out of kilter, put me out of sync. And in the past before, when she'd see me like that, she could not take that well, just be really impatient about it. But I think with experience now, my wife handled it like a pro, like put me at ease, settled me, you know, and everything was just, and it didn't happen instantly. There was still pushback from me, but she handled it like a champ and just kept on showing grace and showing grace and showing grace. So by the time we came on, even though I wasn't fully ready and at ease and relaxed I am now, I eventually got there during the first few minutes of tonight's session. And I told her, oh no, I'm okay now. But you know, what she didn't know then is because I'm okay because of everything you did before coming on. And there are days it doesn't go like that, that we're impatient. So grace is needed. And I think when you practice grace and you show grace more, you just choose that, because it goes a lot more simpler, doesn't it?
Yep.
Like, nobody's got time for the struggles like that.
I was just going to say, from my perspective, one of the things that's helped me over the years when I noticed a particular consistent flaw in my husband, is trying to see him through the lenses that God sees him through, realizing that this is God's son. He's not only my husband, but in heaven one day he will be my brother in Christ. How do I want to treat my brother in Christ? And that's really helped me see him through the eyes of God. Because there's times when, if my only perspective is that he's my husband, and I look at him as that, there's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of, well, since you're my husband, you should be this to me, you should be that to me, you should change, you should do that. But when I see him beyond that and see him as a child of God, as a brother in Christ, I'm able to extend a level of grace that I may not be able to extend to him if I only saw him through the lenses of my husband. And the second thing is, I think when we are aware of our own flaws, we are able to give other people more grace. Sometimes the lack of grace to other people is pride in ourselves, because we see ourselves as better or less in need of grace. And when we realize that we're just as in need of grace as our spouse is, we're able to offer it more. So I'm aware of my weaknesses. I'm aware of my flaws. And because I'm aware of those things, I'm able to show my husband grace, because I need that same level of grace.
This next question is for you, Pierre. So, do you feel like you know all that there is to know about your wife?
No. I know more now than I did then, hopefully, but no. And I'm kind of, if I elaborate on that within 30 seconds, so we can go to the next question, I'm okay with that, because I realize as she has grown as well, she's going to be patient for me to get her more when I'm showing progress of wanting to understand. If I'm not showing progress, or if I'm not coming to her and speaking and find out more, that's where the problem is. So,
and I'll say, like, I don't know if many people who will know everything there is to know about their spouse, because the same man I married 10 years ago is not the same person now. He's changed, he's evolved, he's developed. And I think that's the beautiful thing about marriage, is that people change, people evolve, people develop, and that's the beauty. It's a continuous journey of discovering each other, because we are not the same person we married. At whatever stage you married them, they're not going to be the same person, because as time goes on, we all grow and evolve into different and hopefully better people.
And so the next question that's come through is, what is your advice to newlyweds in the first year of marriage?
Wow.
First year of marriage.
See, remember I was saying that it's going to be hard at times to look back.
What would I say?
Because we're looking with a lot of hindsight.
With a lot of experience.
With more experience, someone who's in their first year can think, oh yeah, but then you don't have the experiences someone who's been married 10 years. And so I would say, be very patient with one another. And I want to leave it there, because if I personally give any more, you may now start thinking, I have to do this, and this is where we must get to. And it might not work out like that. Whereas I think if you are being patient, patience kind of is a key for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So when you have a big win, you're patient. Okay, we've had a big win. let's not get too carried away with the big win.
When life
Let's be
is
patient.
slower.
When life is slow, let's be all right. If there's a bit of a downer moment, still be patient. It's not always going to be this downer moment. So I think, yeah, that'll be it for me. Patience.
For me, I would say find joy in that season. Find joy where you are. Soak up all of the happiness. Soak up all of the. Just create your own joy. I feel like sometimes our lives are so forward thinking that we never get to stop and enjoy now. And I would say, like, enjoy right now, enjoy the moment, find the joy in it, even if it's challenging, find the joy in it. And I would also say, trust me, it won't matter in 10 years.
Yeah.
It won't matter. There are things that I was so bothered about in our first year of marriage that, in looking back now, it really did not matter. So don't major on the little things. Don't build, don't build don't make something that's just a tiny issue. Don't make it a mountain. Don't major on the big things, because honestly speaking, when you look back in 10 years' time, it really probably will not matter. Enjoy each other, be friends, I would say. Learn to really like your spouse. And pray together, seek the face of God together.
Yeah, that was everyone. Yeah, please
pray together. You might not need those prayers now, but there will come a time where those prayers will keep you going. Pray together, find the joy in the moments. Don't make a big deal out of the little things, and just enjoy the gift that God has given you.
Great. This next question is for Pias again. So would you say that it's responsible or irresponsible for a newlywed man to be in full-time ministry?
I would definitely say it's not irresponsible. But like I said, for those who weren't on before, I repeat it again, you must have your affairs in order. Like I said, I had opportunities because I was in the arts before serving in the church that I was at. So when I left uni in 2005, I only took contract jobs because I knew I was serving God. So I didn't want to take a permanent job whereby I couldn't take a day off or take a week off if I had to do something. So I took contract jobs on purpose so that I could work at my own leisure. Now, when you do something like that, so on days where I didn't work, I would be paid. If I had prepared myself, could have easily had a second stream of income. Easily. There was so much things I was doing for people for free I could have been charging from. I was emceeing at events for free. I was writing songs for people. I was doing music for people and co-producing. And all of this stuff was free. Whereas we think about in our day-to-day, could I do that stuff for free? No way. So I had so much opportunities with the gifts that God had given me to monetize my effort. I was planning people's events for free. There was so much opportunity if I had just sat down with myself or sat down with some of my mentors and say, okay, look, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going. How do I make use of the things that I was doing? And if I was more serious about my foray into the arts and acting, I could have had more credits as maybe as a writer, or as a producer, as an actor, as a director when I was really, really active in there. But I was doing so much and not focusing on the things that would have, given me more of a direction and made more financial gains. So, ministry, full-time ministry should never, ever stop you from being married. You just have to make sure that you use those gifts that God has given you to monetize. And I'll leave us with this. Jesus, who was in full-time ministry, yes, he wasn't married, but there was a time they asked Jesus to pay for the taxes for all the 12 disciples, and he paid for it. Yes, Jesus went and said, go to the sea and go fishing. There's a gold coin in a fish. So that's supernatural. But that was only done on one occasion. And as we know, they paid taxes on more than one occasion, probably monthly, right? Don't know what it was done then. So it just goes to tell you that Jesus had a system of paying taxes. So they knew how to look after what they had to pay for. So that goes for a married man as well. Please make sure, establish some stuff, especially as the man, before you get married. It's very, very, very important.
How did you manage your relationship when you had a newborn?
Oh, those days.
I know, right? How did you manage our relationship? We just worked together.
Just worked together. And one thing we did when we had a second, we said, let's make sure we involve the firstborn with what we do with the secondborn, and the first two with the third, so that everyone is together. And we see that today because our 3 children are so close.
Yeah, we
So
worked together. There was no like, one thing I really remember is like my husband really didn't have much of an expectation of me. Like, I didn't have to have dinner ready when he came home. It wasn't like he was having a particular meal like, he didn't put pressure on me to,
like you see in some Nollywood films, right?
I know, right? He didn't put pressure on me to perform beyond what I could do, and he was okay with whatever I could do. That was fine. And we worked together. There was no my job, your job. Whatever needed to be done, we both pitched in, and that really helped our relationship. We worked together. If he saw that I was really, really tired, he would just be like, babe, go and rest. If I saw that he was fatigued from a long coming back home or whatever the case may be, even though maybe I had been with the children all day, I'll just be like, babe, go to bed. I guess it's just being really gracious with each other, seeing each other as really good. Yeah, we just saw each other as a team, and saw this new blessing in our lives as something that God has entrusted us with. And by the grace of God, we try to steward it best to our ability. But I would say, I know that the narrative is changing. A lot of times men are seen as as people who don't get involved in childcare, who don't get involved in certain things. But like I said, I know the narrative is changing, but when you really, really play a supportive role, backbone to your family, it plays a big part in how the woman's postpartum experiences and how the relationship you develop with your child. So I would say that we try and reduce that. This is your job, this is my job, this is your job, this is my job, and everybody just does what needs to be done. The household is a lot happier that way.
We've got another question from the chat. So somebody has asked, I've heard saying a few times, people change after marriage. In what circumstances does this apply, and did this happen to you? And this is both in a positive way and also a negative way.
Positive change.
If people, the term people change after marriage.
Yeah. So I'll say a positive one. You can say one as well. But one positive one is that child?
No.
Okay.
We thought one of our children was like creeping down.
No, one positive one. I think I knew my wife was loving, but after marriage, I even saw a lot more of that. And what I mean by that is that, yes, I knew that she loved me and she loved my family, who's now her family, and people that we, both had in our church. And that, yes, I was a lead pastor, but her serving alongside me. But just to see that grow and her have so much love for them and love for my friends, like my friends that she doesn't really even know, that she just takes them as her people as well. That was really, really great to see. And yes, as Christians, we should do that, but that's still really, really, really good. Now, one thing I'll say was negative was, I have to say this one, babe.
What are you gonna say?
I thought to myself, my wife is so, at one point, touchy-feely before marriage. And I was like, afterwards, it's like, I expected that as well. And I'm like, why are you not like this? You were really, really, touchy-feely with me.
Let's just clarify what you mean touchy-feely. Well, like I was affectionate.
Yes, a lot more affectionate. And I felt that at some time. And I think that's what you said, you know what? Still having children and things like that, some stuff happens, and I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know that could happen. But you know, I believe we have sorted that out, haven't we? So that's mine.
Okay, I don't know what I understood from the question is maybe that phrase that all the people change after marriage. I would say like the core of the person remains the same. Do you get what I mean? Like who the person.
So you're looking at it from that.
Because I think what this person's asking is that, you know how like someone marries someone and then they get married and all of a sudden this person's a different person and they're like, wait, I didn't see this all along. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I understood from that question anyway. I feel like the core of people remain the same. There are things that can change, there are things that can evolve, but the Olumide I know, so some people feel like
Who's
use that for those who know him as
that is my name.
Yeah, for this illustration, I would use his name. The Olumide that I know now, at the core, is the same Olumide that I met, and the same Olumide that I loved. There's nothing about him that's surprising. There's nothing about him that's taken me off guard. And I feel like it's really important that in the initial stages of dating, that you use that time wisely. You don't spend all of that time on dates, watching movies. I'm not saying those things are bad, those things are good, but really spend time finding out who this person is at the core, seeing them in the community, seeing them with their family, those things that where the real person has an opportunity to come out in natural environments. I think those are really, really important things, as opposed to just spending all of your time looking into each other's eyes, dreaming about your future. So I think at the core, people don't change at the core. However, the things that my husband describes, where you find out more about them and all of those things, I think those things can change. That's my perspective anyway.
Great. Lita, I was going to say, because we're quite close to 9:30 now, what we're going to do is we're going to post the announcements in the WhatsApp group tonight. So if anyone's not on the WhatsApp group, is it okay if we can share the WhatsApp group link in the chat now, so that anyone who's not on the WhatsApp group can can join that, and you'll see the notices. But if you're not a WhatsApp group person, but you do want to know what the notices are so you can be kept up to date, can we also post our email address in the chat, so they can send an email to that email address, and
we'll keep you updated.
Keep you updated. Yeah, because I know some people aren't WhatsApp group lovers like that. So if we can post those two in now, that would be really helpful, so that come 9:31, 9:32-ish, depending on how much questions we've got left, we can let people go.
I think we'll take one more question, and then we'll round it up for tonight. But there will be future hot seats where we have sessions where we answer questions. So keep your eyes peeled for those. We'll take one more question and then we'll round it up for tonight.
And obviously they can get in touch with us.
Of course.
So
one more question.
So the last question for tonight is...
Make it a good one.
Yeah. So how do you live out the biblical marriage roles of leadership and submission in your marriage? Does Lola...
You can say my name. You can say my name.
Does Lola, as a wife, find submission hard at times?
Okay, I guess that's a question for me. Yes, absolutely yes. And I would say a lot more in our younger days. I've said this in several places where I've spoken before. The more I trust in God, the more I'm able to submit to my husband. I feel like the struggle with submission is that there is a desire to have some level of control, whereas like, what if he makes the wrong decision? What if things don't happen as he says? What if he leads us astray? The more I've trusted in God and trusted in his ability to keep us and our home, and trusted in his ability to lead my husband, the easier it's been to submit to my husband. So yes, earlier on in our marriage, submission was difficult. But as I've grown in God, as I've put my trust in God and not necessarily in my husband's abilities, it's been so much more easier to submit to my husband, because I know that ultimately God's got us. Even if my husband makes the wrong decision, even if he says we should move to, Japan tomorrow, and it's not the will of God's got us, because that's where my trust lies in. So yeah, submission was something that I struggled with, especially earlier on in our marriage. But the more I've trusted in God, the easier it's been to submit to my husband, because my trust ultimately lies in God.
Good save.
I'll leave it at that. Okay, so that's all we'll be answering for tonight. Do you want to close us, babe?
Yes, I want to say thank you to everybody who has stayed on. We really appreciate your presence. Besides the team who work, tirelessly and put this together for us, I'm really grateful for them, but also grateful for everyone who has stayed on, because we have done this for the benefit of you guys. Not that we don't benefit, but it's ultimately we felt called to share this with all of you. So I pray a blessing over your marital homes, those who are married.
Amen.
Pray a blessing over those who are in relationships. I pray a blessing over those who are singles. It's a great time for you as well. Enjoy your time of singlehood. Please do enjoy it. And you are also blessed. And if you're looking for God to send your intended to you, I pray God does it in a time that's beautiful.
Amen.
So yeah, that link is on the chat again. Please join the WhatsApp group if you want to join the WhatsApp group, so you keep up to date with what we're doing. If
or
you just
drop us an email.
Drop us an email. We'll email you the events that we've got coming up. God bless you all. To the team, if we can wait behind, just so we can just have a quick catch up before we go. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much for joining. God bless you. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. God bless you all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Bye, guys. God
Bye-bye,
bless.
Bye.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye. Well done, guys.
Thank you very much.
See ya.
Good night.
Bye. Hope. Can't believe you were saying that you ain't tasted my cooking before. That was your fault.
You're gonna have to cook something next time I come by.
Yeah. No doubt.
All right, then, bro.
Take care.
Thank you,
Take
bro.
care,
Take
man.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.